Hello, and welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Achieving Unity Success Formula weekly podcast, where we turn chaos into connection and purpose into action. I am your host, Mark Intrican, founder of the Achieving Unity Success Formula, dedicated to improving lives by encouraging, inspiring, and including others. Today, we welcome Michael Davis, a communication coach and speaker mentor who helps leaders, sales professionals, and speakers become unforgettable communicators. I need his help. We all need his help. Communication, collaboration are the keys that open our doors to success. Michael brings a compelling message on the power of communication, your most valuable asset for leading, influencing, and inspiring action. But first, before we dive into this insightful discussion, let me quickly introduce my company, Reality Focused Dynamics, where it all started. You'll see on the first screen, that's my Achieving Unity Guide. And please get a copy of it. If you see on the bottom left, you'll have a QR code. It's a chance for you to see what it is with Achieving Unity Guide and what we can do to work together in all the things that we do, how the Achieving Unity works with ending things like hate or disconnection or anger or frustration or prejudice or that prejudging. Gives a great overview of the whole process. So please get a copy of it. Let me know what your feedback is. But go to the QR code, sign on, let me know what you think. I want to hear from you. Let's refer each other. How can I help you grow forward in ending all the people and the times we'd spend finding wrong when we could be finding what's right and making life a better place, personally and professionally? This is our Achieving Unity Success Formula. It is podcast number 54. And you believe it's so exciting. And again, this is a weekly podcast. Come every week. Put it on your calendar. Making sure you're coming in, see it every week. We want to see from you, want to hear from you. 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Come back. Let us know what you think. Always looking for feedback. You always get in touch with me at www.markintrican.com/contact. Love to hear from you. The reality-focused dynamics. What is it all about? Well, as you can see on the slide, it truly reflects the core of what we do and how we stand firm. Notice how focus sits right in the middle. It sits right at the core of what we do. That is because everything that we explore, everything we share, everything we build on is about reality-focused dynamics, driving us to success-focused solutions. It centers around clear, intentional direction. In fact, the concept of being focused is so core to us that it is even reflected, as you see at the bottom left of my screen, in our phone number. Our phone number is 303-362-8733, which spells 303 focused on your phone pad. We believe that being truly focused on what matters, we can create meaningful change and achieve lasting unity. What do we have? What's it come down to? What's our bottom line? What we have is proven, compassionate strategies that turn conflict into lasting harmony. This includes at home, at work, and in every relationship that matters. Have you ever become frustrated by tension? Frustrated by arguments? Our 7-step roadmap gives you the tools to move from conflict to collaboration quickly and confidently. Are you craving stronger trust, stronger connection? Discover communication tactics that build respect, repair relationships, and unify teams and families alike. Transform conflict into connection. Together, achieving unity. Unity inspires us in our homes. It shapes society, the society around us. It transforms our workplaces, as you've heard me mention, personally and professionally. This is what works. We help you turn frustration into understanding. Have you ever heard somebody say, "What the frustration?" Okay, they may not use the word frustration, and I won't use any other words on this show, but we can find values in our actions instead of acting in that anger or that frustration. Does it come across? Yes, it comes across to me too. But what we do is we learn how to handle it. We show that anger holds no value. Anger, A-N-G-E-R, is just actions not gaining effective results, right? Anger, A-N-G-E-R, actions not gaining effective results. Have you ever been impressed by someone who had anger? I hope not. We know that life happens. It happens in every relationship, from personal to professional, from parenting time, from being a parent to partnerships. It occurs in a boardroom to the bedroom and every room in between. We show you how to embrace those challenges and encourage a more inspired and inclusive future. Call that the EII framework. If you go out to our website, markentrican.com/blog, you will see the articles I have out there that talk about EII, about encouraging, inspiring, and including others. You have one vision, one goal, and that's achieving unity in every area of life. We can't do it alone. Don't let anyone else expect you to do that. So what is our call to action? First off, let's ditch the drama. How much drama do you see in the day? We know how much it is on the television, but we will show you how to get stuff done, how to turn your life from what may seem sometimes like a dumpster fire into a well-oiled machine. Don't let others control your feelings. Achieving unity, that path to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change, turning change into long-term improvement. We have coaching, consulting, courses, keynote speeches. Let us help you today. Contact us today. Reach me at several locations, several URLs. RealityFocusDynamics.com is one of them. But don't forget, 303-362-8733 is 303 focused on your phone dial. Please give us a call. I'm looking forward to talking with you. Next podcast coming up. Today's is going to be awesome. We're going to learn today so much about storytelling. But next week, Wendy Bond's going to join us. She's going to talk to us about heart-centered coaching. That'll be on October 1st. On October 8th, we're going to have Dr. Ying come in and talk to us about food impacts on our attitudes and our behaviors. Yes, what we eat and what we don't eat can impact us in many ways. After that, Timothy Stutz will come in, helping moms and dads raise brilliant, healthy, happy, and empowered children. Yes, your children, my children, and they still will be great kids. They will be brilliant, healthy, happy, and empowered to do what's right. The following week, October 22nd, Bear Pasco. He'll come talk to us about nothing more caring or masculine than parenting your child or children. How many times in the past, our learning, our culture, oh, that's the mom's job. No, it's not. The best parent is both parents, grandparents too. So there's nothing more caring or masculine than parenting your child or children. Come listen to Bear. He'll be here on October 23rd. I'm sorry, 22nd. Then after that, Dr. Sherry Rosenthal, a retreat strategist. She's going to talk to us about the retreats that are out there, but how we can build a retreat, help explain and share our feelings, our knowledge. You have a point, you have a program like we do, build a retreat, bring people to it, help share that message with everyone. So again, we are weekly. Please come back and talk to us. We're here for you. All of October, looking forward to seeing you each and every week. Thank you. And today, I'm very excited about today's podcast because so many times we can't get our information across because we're not adding stories to what we talk about. So today, we talk to Michael Davis about the Storytelling Power Trio. Michael Davis is a speaker, storytelling coach, and communications expert dedicated to helping leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs master high-impact communication. As we say, communication is key. With his years of experience working with world-class mentors and guiding clients across industries, Michael empowers people to move past fear, speak with confidence, inspire lasting change. Through coaching, workshops, and keynotes, Michael equips audiences with proven frameworks to build trust, deliver value, and connect authentically. Michael's work also demonstrates that communication isn't a soft skill. Like we talk about with Achieving Unity, it's not a soft skill, but the most powerful asset. Communication he talks about is the most powerful asset for leadership, sales, and brand growth. Michael's mission is to help people lead with clarity, influence with integrity, and create real results through unforgettable communication. Please contact Michael. You see his YouTube site on the bottom right, youtube.com, Speaking CPR, Michael Davis. Check him out on the web. Again, for today, please help me welcome Michael Davis.
Thank you very much, Mark. And congratulations to you. 54 episodes means you got past the first year. The learning and all the mistakes. And yeah, congratulations, because most podcasts never make it this far.
Thank you so much. And that is true. And as we hear so often, because it is true, it's the team. And Renee, my virtual assistant, VA, is tremendous. She helps me keep this going. She's on early, helps us get the ball rolling, and keep what you bring forward so clear, and that's communication to help us work it through, because getting to here, as you mentioned, it's not easy. Putting it together is what it's all about.
You couldn't do this without Renee.
I couldn't. That's very true. She is my right hand in so many ways.
So yeah, good to
All
be
right,
here. I always
well,
love
tell
talking
us.
storytelling.
Thank you, Michael, because that's one thing I want to talk to you about. I'm so glad you're here. But before we dive into storytelling, can you share a little bit about what first drew you to helping people communicate better? Tell us about yourself and how you started off in this path.
I started off in 1994 as a young financial advisor, Mark. And the reason I ended up here is because I was a lousy communicator. I was sitting in my boss's office on an October afternoon, and he said, you're doing a lousy job of getting us new clients. I'm a financial planner, and he said, I'm going to have you start doing retirement planning workshops to get some new clients in here. And I thought, oh no, I can't do that. What my boss didn't know was that when I was a kid, I was 6 years old, I was humiliated by my first grade teacher so badly, I said, I'll never stand in front of people again. And until that day in his office, I didn't. But now I had a new fear I had to deal with. The scales of justice. Am I more afraid of losing my job or standing in front of people? So I went out and I did the workshops. 6 weeks later, I'm back in his office, and he said, I don't believe this. You've given 3 workshops and not one new client. You really suck at this. Fix this or you're finished. Now I'm desperate.
Wow.
I've got to find something. And I find this public speaking organization, and I went there just to save my job. Turns out 31 years later, I'm still part of that organization. I'm part of the National Speakers Association. I've built my own business, and it was all started because I didn't know how to effectively communicate through absolute fear and intimidation.
That's a great point you're making there, Michael, too, because you're going theoretically from the bottom. I mean, you're starting from ground zero. But you stepped out to your speaking, which is a fear for a lot of people, and opened up how many doors? How large a
Countless.
door have you built? I said, you have your own business now, all by stepping out, reaching out to others, and communicating well. Tell us more.
Yeah, it started, and I stayed in the financial business for 29 years, but along the way, I discovered that public speaking is a skill that we are innately fearful of. And this can't be proven specifically, but there's a theory that this goes back to our earliest ancestors when we were living in small tribes. The person who stood out from the crowd brought danger to the tribe. So we were persuaded not to stand out from the crowd because that could be dangerous for everyone. So some people speculate it's in our DNA, right? Don't stand out. But societies evolved and different people did stand out, fortunately, and became leaders. So it's not unusual to be nervous about speaking. In fact, I like nerves. I tell all my clients, when you're not nervous, I'm worried because you're not emotionally engaged and involved. It's okay that just don't let it shut you down. Don't let it control you. There are various techniques you can use, breathing and physical exercise before you go on to manage that and use that energy to share that with your audience. So I started to learn issues like that. Number one is it's okay to be nervous when you speak. Number two, there is no such thing as a natural born speaker, even though you will hear some people who give you the impression they were born to speak. So those types of insights helped. And then along the way, you mentioned doors. Sometimes you're lucky in life, you meet the right people, but you have to take advantage of those opportunities. And along the way, I have met some people who became mentors to me, who opened other doors and other doors and other doors, to where now I have access to a lot of the best speakers in the world as mentors and friends, business leaders. I've worked with Hollywood scriptwriting consultants from a storytelling standpoint. One of my friends and colleagues now was a showrunner for the Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg show. He was a head writer for Arsenio Hall. That just came by meeting people and being willing to step through that door when that opportunity came. And they've all given me this unique perspective on storytelling. And I discovered along the way I had this hunger and I just love stories. I mean, this became a calling. I knew back in 2011 that I needed to be doing this, coaching and teaching people presentation skills and storytelling. And I put a 3-year plan in place to leave the financial business and do this full time. And 7 years later, I did, which just goes to
Oh,
show you can lay a plan out, go after it, but life will interfere. But I just stuck with it. And this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, helping people get their stories into the world, to understand the power they have, and to help them increase their influence and impact.
that's beautiful. What you're talking about, Michael, is so strong in doing that. And then, as you mentioned, taking that plan, and yes, too many times plans take us much longer than we want them to. And the plan we have many times, and I think as you just mentioned, is interrupted by life. Things do come about that take some extra massaging in the process. But
It
as we know, if
does.
you don't build a plan, doesn't everything fit in? If you don't have a plan to work with, you can put almost anything else into it without understanding where you're reaching your goals, right?
Absolutely. You've got to have the target, but don't get so locked in. It's like a GPS. You may have this idea that I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm going to go from here to Atlanta, Georgia to visit my son. I'm going to go down I-75. Well, what happens if a bridge goes out? Do I keep going over I-75 and go into the ravine and kill myself? Not a good
Well
strategy.
said. Not
I
a good
know where I'm
strategy.
going. Just go find other roads. And that's what happens when we hit these obstacles. And look, I don't know what the alternate universe is if I had made that in 3 years instead of 7, but I feel like I'm better off for the journey because I had to overcome those obstacles that I didn't anticipate, as is you and everybody watch. If you're watching this, those obstacles can be a benefit if you're willing to embrace them and see how it helped make you stronger and better.
Well, that is so true. And I like what you're saying. And again, telling stories, bringing those people in it. As we open those doors, we've got to go through the door. You can open the door and look all day long, but till you go through it, you're not getting anywhere. Those storytelling is not going to go through the door. You got to open up, walk through it, and take that next step. You had one sentence, just one thought about why storytelling, because you talk about speaking, you talk about being on the insurance and investments. You had one story that matters to you personally about storytelling. What would that be? When you were building in this, where did storytelling come into your process? Into the answer, so to speak?
Well, it's when I discovered through many of these mentors I had that storytelling goes back to our earliest ancestors. In fact, sociologists, some now believe we were telling stories before we had verbal language. Through grunts and actions and body movements, that's how our ancestors related the events of the day. And of course, that eventually became cave drawings and then written language. So we have been teaching our morals, our ethics, our values even before we could speak, is what some people believe. And there is a saying that storytelling is in our DNA. And 2/3 of our communication is some form of story. Now, there are some good stories and there's some that aren't. When I talk storytelling in business or for professional speakers, there is a framework, a structure that we use that ties into how the human brain best likes to consume stories. It's not theory, it's been researched now for a couple of decades. And there are certain key points in stories as you go along where when the brain hears that, it's like, well, okay, I want more, I want more, I want more. The brain loves conflict, that has to be in there. Ultimately, there has to be a resolution also. That is a key factor, is understanding how your audience's brain loves to consume narrative. When you do that, it becomes a superpower.
It does, and I can hear just from you talking about it in the process because stories aren't just for the stage. Stories aren't just for people being the storyteller, but it sounds like we can see them also shaping our everyday conversations with our friends, our family, and our coworkers. As far as that communication, as you're talking about, the more we're able to use the storytelling, the more we can connect and capture with those that we care about, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the best storytellers, when they share their narrative, their story becomes the audience's story. When I say audience, it could be 1 to 1, it could be 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000, doesn't matter. It becomes autobiographical. And if there are stories you've heard that stuck with you and resonated and you still think about it, it's because it tapped into something in your life.
Mhm.
Like when
And
I
it
was
seems,
six, no, go ahead.
go ahead. No, please go ahead.
No, when I was 6 years old, I said I got in trouble. Well, here's what happened. It was during recess one day. It was raining outside. I'm bored. I like to entertain my friends, so I jump up on top of my desk and I start telling
Oh,
jokes, as only a 6 year old can do. I don't remember how bad they were, but my friends and I were laughing and having a good time until my teacher, Mrs. Grimm, walks back in the room. She takes one look at me and says, well, since you love standing on your desk so much, at nap time today, you get to stand on your desk again. And everybody can look at you. So she made me stand on that desk for 40 minutes while all my
Wow.
classmates were looking up and all the things kids do. And with each passing minute, I just wanted to disappear. She didn't have to do anything but make me stand out in an embarrassing way, and it scarred me for 25 years. Well, actually longer, because I dealt with it because I had to save my job, but it took me years in my speech training to understand that story and what it had done to me. And now here's the thing about that. I'm not the only person to ever be embarrassed as a child. We all have. The details may not be the same, but if you're listening to this, chances are I tapped into something that happened to you where you're like, yeah, I've been there. And it had a negative impact on you.
I like what you're talking about there too, Michael, because so many times as you're saying, that simple story, that one simple story, maybe even a shorter story, can completely shift the way people treat each other. As you're saying, many of us have been embarrassed when we were younger, but a story like that to touch on situations where there's others like you that had to stand up, or there's others in the room that saw someone treated as you were, the impact that that could have on them.
Absolutely. I was at a TEDx event this past weekend for one of my clients who was speaking, and one of the other speakers, I just loved her talk, Dr. Shreya. She talked about storytelling. She's a psychologist. She talked about what she labeled the stumble story. When you fell down in life at some point, you struggled, you failed to reach a goal. She said, we're not teaching those to our kids anymore. Society's teaching kids it's all about success and getting the gold and the money and the likes and all this. And this is why we're having a mental health crisis. We have got to share and not be embarrassed by those failures we have, which I'm not even a believer in the word failure at this point. It's just I didn't achieve the goal I wanted, but I learned this and it was a step to the success I eventually got. That's how I frame failure. But it's
And
the commonality of those specific incidents that connects us.
and that doesn't connect, it can connect with so many people, but just because of that. So why is it that these stories reach people's hearts faster than facts? Maybe just advice. How
Well,
do these stories take it that one step further?
well, it does tap into the brain. This is where brain research comes in. There are parts of the brain. I call it the storytelling codes. C is cortisol, O is oxytocin, D is dopamine, E is endorphins, and S is, I can't think of it right now. I just added S. That's why I keep forgetting. But here, all those neurochemicals get released when we hear sensory rich and emotional stories. And emotion is activated by conflict. If you're listening to a story and it sounds like here was this person and they did this and they did that. It was just a series of ideas, like a report connected by the word and. There's no emotional connection. It's a report. You could put it on a PDF and send it to me. However, when you introduce one word into your story, it changes everything and it sends the story down an emotional path. And the word is but. But, or variation. Yet, however, on the other hand. But that word but is the most powerful narrative word. Now, when I share this in workshops and on podcasts, people invariably say, Michael, didn't you get the memo? The word but is terrible for conversation because it shuts down everything you heard before. Absolutely. In day-to-day conversation. I always like to say, if I go upstairs to my partner after this interview and I say, oh, honey, look at you. As always, your hair is gorgeous. And I love that jacket you're wearing. But is she going to hear anything else I say? And I'm probably going to be sleeping with the dogs tonight. It's the exact
I bet you.
it's the exact opposite in storytelling. It it snaps the brain into, oh, something just happened. We just had a change. And the brain loves conflict. It loves to hear that. Now we have to resolve it eventually. So we need that conflict in stories. But when we have it, that's what engages people. And that's what reports never do. It's
That's a
the
good point.
business leader standing here saying, you see in third quarter, we got 32% increase. And we're down in this market. We're up. Put it on a piece of paper. I don't want to hear it.
I like what you're saying too, because I think it's helped you build on those stories. And I think there's some of these as I'm listening to you that they sound like stories that I'd want to hear over and over, I guess as a reminder. Are any of these stories that you're talking about ones that you use in, in the majority of your speeches when you're talking to people?
Yeah, the desk story. I talk about being in my boss's office. That's an anchor story. The new one that I've told on many podcasts now, and it's in my new book that's coming out, it is the anchor to my keynotes, is the one that really inspired the storytelling trio that we haven't talked about yet, but probably a good place to talk about it is last year I was talking with my youngest son. And just a quick backstory, when I was born in France. And
Okay.
my parents immigrated to the States when I was a baby. And when I was 2, my father left us, never to be seen again. And I don't
Sorry.
share that I don't share that for empathy, for sympathy. Actually, he did me a favor because the dad I ended up with when mom got remarried, couldn't ask for a better dad. He's the best dad in the world. But I share that because years later, last year, my son says, "Why do you think your father left when you were a little boy?" And Mark, without thinking, I said, "I don't know. I guess he just didn't think I was worth sticking around for." Oh my gosh. That's the answer. That's the answer I've been looking for my entire adult life. See, my entire adult life, I've been working since I was a teenager. Anytime I got close to big success, something would happen. And I would go down into this pit and I would have to go back up. Didn't matter what career I was in, financially, it was just like this repeating roller coaster over and over. Same peak, same trough. And it just drove me crazy for decades. But when I said that phrase, I guess he didn't think I was worth sticking around for. It was like the missing puzzle piece of my life got snapped into place and my entire life made sense to me. I had a history of, I used to brag when I was in my 20s. I've never been dumped. As a 20-something man, I thought, big me, big man, macho, male ego, whatever. I now see that there was nothing to be proud of because what I was doing is I was leaving relationships because that invisible or that unconscious voice was saying, "You're not worth sticking around for. They're going to leave eventually. So why don't you do it first?" In business, I often would not make the phone calls when I was close to that big breakthrough because the voice was telling me, they're not going to do business with you, or if they do, they're going to leave. You're not worth sticking around for.
Ouch.
That moment of clarity, Mark, was so powerful for me. Now, I didn't change overnight. I had to figure, what do I do with this insight? And I have this exercise that I put. It's actually in the book. Is write down. I call it the doubt versus evidence exercise. Write down the negative story. So in my case, you're not worth sticking around for. What's the evidence that's counter to that? I listed everybody in my life who I still have a relationship with. It got into the hundreds. So when I visually looked at, here's this story, here's the evidence against it, if I was in a trial, it would be like, we need to declare a mistrial. The evidence here is overwhelming that story is wrong. And I started to see it in a new light. I am worth sticking around for, and I have all the evidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that as of June this year, I already had my best year ever. It
Congratulations.
freed me up. Now, it's not a monetary thing. It's just I'm different. People see it because I no longer believe that hidden story that's back there whispering. It's like, you need to go. You no longer belong here. I'm not unique. I'm not special. Every one of us is carrying a story like that. And once you become aware of it and you can start to rewrite the story, that's huge. It makes all the difference. And that's where the story power trio comes along. That insight inspired this concept that telling stories is important. It's how we connect, but it's the least important of the three stories we need to know if we're going to be master communicators. The first, by far, the most important is the identity story. What story are you telling yourself? In your relationships, in business, your career, whatever it is, what are you telling yourself on a consistent basis? And if you're not aware of it, you got to start listening. And if it's negative, you can rewrite it. It's not about therapy or going through trauma. Look, one of the people who inspired this was a psychologist who said, I don't want people going back through their trauma. I want them to understand what it is so they can take away its power and rewrite it. That's the first story. The second is what I call the perspective story, which is, what is the story your listeners or audience is telling themselves? You and I are
Is that your friends?
It could be anybody, your friends, any communication situation you're walking into. It's a lot like this. We're all like a 500 channel streaming service, right? We've got all these stories playing in our head all the time. So when we go into a communication situation, if we don't get locked in on what they're thinking about, we can tell the best story in the world, but it may miss them because they're thinking about something else. And how do we do that? We become better at asking questions.
I think that's great. Ability to ask the questions also, right?
It's ability to ask the questions and not just accept the surface question. So,
Yes.
what I do for a living. People come to me and say, well, I've been told I need to be a better storyteller and a speaker, and I need a coach. That's not why they need a coach. So I have to start digging. So what is it about storytelling? Tell me, why do you need to tell stories? And they tell me about their business. Okay. Say I'm working with a salesperson. Well, I just haven't been selling a lot lately. Okay. Let's talk about that. What's the reason you're not selling? Go deeper, go deeper. And eventually it comes down to, well, I'm having a lot of problem in my marriage, or somebody in my family's sick, problem with the kid, whatever. When I find the core problem, this isn't about hiring a speech coach, about getting clear on the story that's inside of you first so that you can then build a valuable story to share with others.
That's beautiful. Because if we can't share that story, what do we say about our own life?
Absolutely. And it's like
That's good.
what you work on, Mark. It's if we're going to connect with others, if we're going to get rid of the hostility, or at least take the temperature down several degrees, we got to slow these communications down so we understand one another.
I think that's so true right there is understanding. But so much in our communication, we assume a lot. And the terminology, the terms we use, the words that we use, sometimes we use words that we may not even understand ourselves. But yet we're expecting the person that we're talking with, telling our stories to, having the communication with, to understand them when we're not even sure of them ourselves. We need to make sure that we understand and explain what we're talking about so that other party can understand, be able to clarify those words.
Oh,
Because we need,
absolutely.
I think some of the things I'm picking up from what you're saying today too, is what happens is we're only focusing on what we want to say and not actually what our listeners are hearing. We say what we want, what we're wanting to say with our own clarity or the lack of understanding without our listeners, our audience, our friends being able to pick up on or see or hear what we're talking about. Do you see that
Absolutely.
sometimes too?
Oh, I see it all the time, especially in the corporate world. It's jargon, it's technology, it's all these verbs and verbiage that people use, and I'll sit there and say, I'm a pretty smart guy. I don't understand what you just said. And then I have to get clarity. Now, sometimes it's okay to go into jargon and technical language if your audience is 100% people who do what you do. That almost never happens. I
True.
tell all my clients, you've got to address the person in the room who doesn't know your world because they're out there. Even if they're the CEO, especially if they're the CEO or the CFO, they're not in these departments every day. Give them big picture language. You're not dumbing it down, you're making it clear. It's the curse of knowledge. I know this so well, I forget that you don't. So I start talking in phrases that you don't understand. That or it's a self-esteem issue and I'm trying to impress you.
And then what are they going to be impressed with? That's sometimes the things like anger. We think anger is accomplishing something. We think we're macho. We think that, wow, I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm showing anger. I'm somebody. When how is that other person interpreting that anger? How is that communication that you're sharing being accepted or not accepted?
Well, as you know, it's not. It's just not
It's
being
not.
heard. People are going to defense mode, and you get the parasympathetic or the sympathetic statement part of the body going up. Temperatures rise. Nobody hears anybody.
That's so true. And when at the end of the day, and I'm past the next person, what did he say? What did she say? Bad point. What was her name again? What was his name again?
Yeah,
Bad about that. But
I
well,
don't
let's talk
remember,
a
but I
little bit
noticed they
more.
were mad, and that's all I remember, right?
Exactly.
And that stressed me out, so it wasn't a good engagement. So
It was not a good engagement.
yeah,
But let's go back to what I've picked up as called the storytelling trio that you work with. Can you paint for us? Speaking of understanding, can you paint for us, Michael, a picture of how that trio works in real life, like a meeting, or even maybe family dinner, or maybe with a couple? Is there an example that you could kind of share with us on how that trio works?
yeah, absolutely. And I did mention the first two, and the third is the story you actually go there to share the message. So how it works in everyday situation. I'll give you an example. When I was a young advisor working on financial planning, I had a prepackaged presentation that I was going to give to people. And I would ask the questions that they put into the presentation, but I wasn't listening to the answers. So what happened was I was talking at them, and I'm embarrassed to say this, Mark, after 2.5, 3 hours, the meeting would end. if you if you can't say it in 20 minutes, you're not saying it in 2.5 hours.
That's a
So
long time.
yeah, and here's what I understand now about what I was going through. Not only poor training, but I had a low self-esteem and I did not have confidence. So the story I told myself, which is that first identity story, is you've got to prove yourself to them with knowledge. Drop knowledge on them and they'll want to do business with you. Number two, I wasn't getting their perspective because I wasn't asking questions, or if I did, I wasn't listening to the answers. And then number three was if I did tell stories, which I rarely did then, it was an accident. So effectively doing that as an advisor, as a coach, it doesn't matter your role as a leader. Go in knowing what that story is you're telling yourself, and if it's a dinner with your best friends coming over, what's your attitude about them coming over? What's your attitude about what's going on in your life? Are you tuned into your channels? And are you focused on the event or some other issue? So we've got to be aware of what's going on in our own heads first. Secondly, do we know what state of mind of your people is? One of the best examples I've heard is when companies get taken over and new leadership comes in and they start talking about metrics and all of these issues and why this is going to be a better situation. But the people in the audience are thinking, yeah, my best friend got fired when we had the last buyout. I guess my job's on the line now. And the leaders who don't address that, they're creating animosity because they're sending the message, I really don't care what you think. but it's those who go in with their teams, their leadership teams, their employees, and they go and say, what's going on with you? What are your daily struggles? It's just those quick questions. What's going on with the family? How's the kids? I know you had a new baby. Getting to understand where people's minds and hearts are will open them up to hear your message and your story.
And Michael, what I'm hearing you say too is it's sometimes good to come up and ask your friends, your family, your associates, how is your family? Do you have kids? Because some people don't even know how to take it to that next level. That how are
Not at
things
all.
going? How are your kids? How's family? Their living situation? How are things going for you? So the people, our friends, our neighbors, our acquaintances are comfortable with talking, right?
Well, absolutely. And it's just listening to what people say. A lot of times when I work with salespeople, they want scripted questions. I'm like, don't do that because you sound robotic and you're not listening. Like, let's just take the example of you and I talking today. When you said 54 years, now I'm a numbers guy. Even though I don't like details, I think in numbers. I thought, wow, that's really cool. You've been doing this for a year. I'm going to
Just
say
celebrate it.
something. I'm going to say something because that's a great accomplishment.
Thank you.
Just listen to those details. People are telling you all day long what you need to ask the next question, but you got to be interested and you've got to listen and not think, okay, what's the next question? Well, as soon as Mark opens up, man, I'm coming in hot. I'm going to talk about storytelling because that's what I do. That's not effective. And
Well, if
you
you
said
would,
something.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you said something really important earlier. We shortcut the conversations, especially with those we're closest to. Our life partners. I've been with my partner Linda for 15 years now, and when we talk, I have to slow myself down and say, "Don't assume you know what she means. Get clarity. Don't always do it." Right? We never do when we're in relationships, but in business, we tend to be better at it if we slow the process down.
Well, that's actually, I'm with you 100%. And Michael, that is so true. And that ability, because I know with my love of my life, sometimes it's tough and we get into situations, it's hard to think through all that we want to talk about and go ahead and ask those questions that we know we should ask or understand or clarify, but we let it go. We, something else is coming up. Maybe we're looking to respond more than we are of listening and sharing. That
Mm-hmm.
ability from both sides, being able
Yeah,
to ask the other person for the same thing. So if you don't mind, go back through your power trio, if you would.
absolutely.
Storytime power trio. What are those again? And help us understand on a layperson's terms how we can put that together.
Yeah, the identity story is the first story. That's the story we tell ourselves. Now, you could be telling yourself a lot of stories. I get it. But when you're in a communication situation, what are you telling yourself? If it's a sales call, if you're talking to your team, if you're standing up in front of a group, what's going through your head? Typically, it's not positive. Oh, it just happened to this past weekend. I got a TEDx speaker. She's fabulous. She's a gold star mom talking about how she dealt with grief. And this story is phenomenal. But she had this negative self talk. She started saying to herself 10 minutes before the event, oh, I hope I don't screw this up. And we had to sit down with her and say, let's get you recentered. What should you be focused on? It should be focused on the other person. So be aware of what you're saying to yourself. And more importantly, away from the high stakes moments of those presentations, just sit down and think, what do I typically say to myself when I'm going into those? What's the story? Again, it's typically negative. Hope I don't mess it
It's
up. Boy,
too
there's a lot
often
of,
negative.
yeah. It's real simple language. Don't screw this up. Am I the right person? I call this also the terrible twos. Right? I'm too fill in the blank. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too male. I'm too female. I'm too fill it in. We all do it. Doesn't mean you're going to get rid of those questions, but being aware of them helps you reframe them. So that's the identity story. Once you're clear on that, then focus on the other people, other person, what's going through their heads. It's easier in a one-on-one because you can ask direct questions. Get a feel for where they are. I mean, the best speakers in the world step in front of an audience, and if there's an elephant in a room, they know walking in. Don't wait until you start a presentation to find out, okay, the board of directors just got fired and everybody is worried about their jobs. Not a good time to find that out. So know what they're thinking, get them tuned in so they can be ready to hear your message. One-to-one, very easy. If you're a speaker listening to this, you just do your homework with the meeting planner and right up to the last few minutes, is there anything I need to know that's changed since we started this event? And sometimes it happens.
And asking those questions, as you're saying, is so important.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. One of my friends always starts, because he travels a lot, he typically starts his presentations with lines about the airport because gosh knows it's no fun to travel anymore. Well, he always asks these questions. What do I need to know? Turns out the board of directors of this company had been killed in a plane crash the week before.
Oh,
He
wow.
did not go anywhere near airport comments at all. It just would have not worked. And he would have shut the audience would have tuned him out and he would not have known why.
Hmm.
So that's an extreme
Could have been the
example I
best
give.
speech, better stories ever. But to touch on
Absolutely.
that,
And he is a fabulous storyteller, and they always land because he knows what he has to do. He knows that he has to find out what's going on so he can adjust the stories or the speech to them. But we need to do it one on one, we need to do it in front of groups. And then the third story is actually the one you went there to give, to share with them with the message and your own experience. I haven't heard any other speech coach talk about these three together. A lot of story coaches will help you with structure of story. There are some people who will work with you on getting your mindset right. Others on asking questions. And I have a friend who's fabulous at helping people be curious and really activate the curiosity muscle. I haven't heard anybody talk about all three. And I think these are the three together that make us master communicators.
that's excellent. That's something we need to be thinking about when we're talking. I hope I can take what you're saying today and use it tomorrow. So we talk about that. What about somebody who's shy, maybe even unsure? What's a simple way they could maybe start telling these stories a little bit better today?
Well, I think it starts with that identity story. Okay, you're shy,
Identity.
you're unsure. I was a young financial advisor. That was me. I know. And what am I doing to try to overcome that? Well, just my own experience was I bombarded people with information. That's not good, especially today. I can get more information on this device right here, this cell phone, than any speaker can ever give me. Sometimes the information is actually right, but um, just know that it's not about information. What people want from us, whether it's a selling situation or leadership, they want your perspective. What have you gone through that might help me overcome a problem? The writer Stephen Pressfield says, if you could just move the human race 1 millimeter further down the road, you're doing some good. And
Yes.
in each of our interactions, it's going in with the idea, I want to help you solve a problem. I can understand the problem. And I get outside of my own head when I do that, by the way. But for somebody who's shy, who isn't quite confident, and this is what I get all the time. I'm an introvert. I don't know if I could be an effective presenter. Mark, I will tell you my experience is the most effective speakers are almost always introverts.
Hmm. That's good to know.
Not a knock on extroverts, by the way. Extroverts have a physiological need to talk. That's just how they're wired. The problem is the message is often buried in a lot of verbiage. I don't know what the message is. And extroverts, I have to work with to say, what's the point you're trying to make? Because it's lost in there. Introverts tend to be more thoughtful first and then speak. So it's just a misconception. Just because somebody talks doesn't mean they're saying something of meaning.
Now, that's so true because too many people are talking, and I'm sorry to say that they are just talking. Their information may simply not be validated. As you're talking about they haven't identified with themselves on the story.
That's
But
right.
sometimes they're said to be extroverts when they're maybe just nervous people, but they're just talking because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah, it's like I'm talking because I'm supposed to talk, but I have no message. I have no point. And because of the work you do, I think this is so important. We're talking over one another.
Very well
And I think
said.
that, yeah, that's why this trio is so important, because be aware of what's going on inside your head doesn't mean you have to say it out loud. Now, go find out what the other person's thinking.
And in that process, one of the things that we talked about earlier, maybe we have about 5 minutes left.
Sure.
What do we do to keep it positive? Because we've said about the negativity and people, I talk all the time about people finding something wrong. How can we talk about what you're saying in the storytelling? Now there's some negative things, but I love the story you talked about when you're standing up on your desk. It's a negative story, but it had a good point and it had a positive ending. How can we share that and grow that into more than what we're doing and be positive in our
Well,
stories?
it's an important question to ask yourself. What was good about this? One of my fellow coaches, she is brilliant. She asks this question of everyone she works with. Okay, and she's worked with some people that have been through some really tough times. What good came out of that? Something positive came out of it. Like, I'm not the only person in the world whose father left at 2 years old or when I was a kid, but I've met people who still hang on to that. To me, I was an angry child. I didn't know why. My mom said I was always angry because that happened. But when I look back, I got the best dad in the world. He's not my stepdad, he's my dad. I wouldn't have had that experience. So he did me a
Mhm.
favor leaving. I think it also made me more sensitive to people who were in that situation. So ask yourself and just get a piece of paper. Okay, this is this thing that happened. What was the good that came out of it? Just like my other exercise. Here's the story. What's the counter to that? You know, got hundreds of people who think I'm worth sticking around for. This bad thing happened. What was good? And I've heard stories from people who've gone through some real trauma who turned it around. So that's
I
the
think
most
that's
important
excellent
thing.
right there. They can turn that trauma around. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. It's all about telling a different story. What's the
Mhm.
new story you're going to attach to that incident that is a benefit you've achieved?
It's so, so true. We're getting close to closing. Michael, thank you again. But for our listeners today, if they remember nothing else about what you've said today, can you help us with at least one takeaway that you hope stays with them about the power of storytelling?
Yes. I don't care what your background is, what your job title or self labeling, it doesn't matter. You have experiences that other people must hear, because a lot of people are walking around today hurting, they're afraid, they've got struggles they don't know how to get over. And this isn't about having won a gold medal or overcoming a major life illness or finding Titanic at the bottom of the ocean. It's about those everyday experiences that we can all relate to, the universal experiences, that when you share how you overcame that, you're helping others. So people need to hear about your experiences and hear your story.
It is so true, Michael. Thank you so much. Wow, what an incredible podcast, Michael
Thank you.
Davis. And your journey is a testament to resilience that you learned and you built, people the negative and the trauma and what you've taken from it. You yourself once terrified of public speaking for over 25 years, and seeing what you do today, a threatened job, pushed you to confront your fears and your learning. You've transformed challenges into a mission. You've done so much in helping other leaders and professionals master just that human connection and deliver messages that reach over 6 million people. That is so much, Michael. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Mark.
much for what you do.
Appreciate
And
it.
thank you for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Again, we're looking forward to seeing you a year from now when you've got 2 years under your belt.
I love that. We're gonna make that happen. So, because it's all of us working together, and I'm glad you said that. Because we have to remember that just like what you're talking about, unity itself, as I talk about the achieving unity, unity is not just an ideal, it's a success strategy. It's a daily choice to lead with empathy, act with integrity, and uplift others along the way, like I think you have done today, Michael, in helping us. A service that we can continue to give and learn from for free for years as we gain so much for ourselves. And if what anything was shared today from Michael, from myself, resonates with any of our listeners, if you're listening to this today from being here, from listening to it later, listening to the recording, reach out to us. Reach out to me at markentricken.com. Go out and look at Michael Davis and his YouTube. Find him, connect with him. Let's help things happen in what we do and how we grow forward, because that storytelling can help each of us be able to talk better with others and better understanding. Again, please come back. Michael, thank you again. Appreciate
Thank
it
you,
so
Mark.
much.
Enjoyed it.
Until next time, let us keep transforming that chaos of talking as well as unity into connection. Michael's talking about storytelling is a connection. So let us continue do that. Achieving Unity. Reach me at www.achievingunity.com. Of course, call me 303-362-8733, which is what? 303 focused. When we can stay focused on storytelling, focused on what Michael has told us today, focused on turning chaos into connections, we achieve unity by harnessing that power of encouraging, inspiring, and including others in building better businesses, better lives, and a better world. I love to see more of it each and every day, and I think Michael would, and I hope that you would. Life is truly what we make it, so let's make it awesome together in unity. Thank you all. Thank you again, Michael. I'm so glad you were here today. I've learned from you. I hope I can take what you're saying and your message of helping others with me
Thanks, Mark.
each and every day. So again, I know we'll see each other in other meetings, other times.
Yeah.
Audience, thank you for being here so much. I hope to see you all again next week. Till then, cheers.